First of the 9th, Air Cav, son. Air Mobile. I can take that point and hold just as long as I like, and you can get any place up that river that suits you, young captain. Hell, a 6-foot peak.
Colonel Kilgore might be the person who represents everything what is wrong with the military, or specifically the concept of Heli-borne or air mobile operation, as he says in this dialogue. But that was the intention of the director, to show everything that was wrong with the Vietnam War. And in this instance, he's quite right. That's why the character, Colonel Kilgore, played by Robert Duvall, is often treated as a villain. Some people think he's awesome, but I personally think that he wasted away resources and was quite a bad officer. Well, what if I told you that during the same time frame, about 70s, during the liberation war of Bangladesh, there was an officer who was the direct opposite of this guy. And he performed the concept of Heli-borne operations so smoothly and so precisely that it is one of the most successful air mobile or Heli-borne operations conducted by the Indian Army till date. In this video, we are going to find out all about it. He disobeyed Manekshaw, he disobeyed everyone, and he captured Dhaka. If it wasn't for him, today, the 16th of December, wouldn't even have happened. So, let's go. Before we continue the video, guys, I have to ask you something. You are liking, commenting, and sharing, but you're not subscribing, okay? Liking, commenting, and sharing, something's missing. It's subscribing, guys. You're coming back to see your videos. Our data shows it, okay? A lot of you are coming back, but you're not subscribing. Go ahead and subscribe for more cool videos. Come on, guys.
Do it! Just do it! Yes, you can!
Winston Churchill said that prerequisites for victory are strategy and slaughter. The better the strategy, the less the slaughter. Conversely, poorer the strategy, the more the slaughter. If we take that term and define a battlefield by those words, Lieutenant General Sagat Singh would be one of the best battlefield commanders of all time, because the whole operation, called the Operation Cactus Lily, only had like 100 casualties on both sides. Considering that involved from 15,000 to 20,000 soldiers in whole, well, it was a stroke of genius. But here's the thing, this operation was never planned. I mean, when I say not planned, it was not planned by anybody, like not the headquarters, the Indian Army Command, not the Air Force, not the government. No one planned this. So basically, in the 1971 war, you go to any account you have of that, the capture of Dhaka was not an objective. And General Sagat Singh, basically, it was the most ambitious, rebellious, most courageous, and the most outrageous operation attempted by a person. So the story started quite literally on the border. There was a town called Akhoda. The Pakistanis had a squadron of PT-76 tanks, and I think it was infantry too. The plan of the 1971 war, designed by the whole thing was designed by J.F.R. Jacob, who was a legend in himself, was about circumventing the enemy and going straight to what mattered, and that's what was done. At Akhoda, the 4th Guard Regiment, Guard Battalion, under the 311 Brigade, Mountain Brigade, under the 57 Mountain Division, and which comes under the 4 Corps of Lieutenant General Sagat Singh, basically went outflanked the Akhoda town and went straight to Arhand, the town that was housing their artillery battery, and then destroyed the battery. The battery was destroyed by counter-artillery fire from the 40 Medium Regiment of the Indian Army. Now in Arhand, the commander of the 4 Guards, Lieutenant Colonel Himmat Singh. By the way, Himmat means courage, literally in our language. So Himmat Singh was the CO of the 4th Guards, and the brigade commander was Brigadier Mishra. Now they both met after the occupation of Arnd, and they went on a reconnaissance mission. Now it was not out of the ordinary for most of our officers in that time to take on reconnaissance missions on their own, and unlike the Pakistani army, and so they went on their way. In the meantime, Major Chandrakanth Singh, who was called Paunchy, see, they had developed this system of calling each other by pet names, because in this operation, the short time that it was devised and planned, they had no time to design a code name, so they just called each other with their pet names over the radio. So it was Paunchy. So Paunchy was made in charge. He was basically told by Lieutenant Colonel Himmat Singh that, okay, Paunchy, you're in charge of the battalion. I'm gone. I'm going to see if the Meghna has any approaches where we can... you're in charge. And so Paunchy, like the company commander who had a battalion charge for the first time, was like, holy, well, this is cool. And then he was going around and doing inspections. Well, anyway, over the radio came the voice of Major General B.F. Gonzalez, called Ben. Now, Ben, the division commander, wanted to talk to Paunchy. It was Ben to Paunchy. Paunchy was told that take your regiment, take your battalion to Brahmanpuria. Now, hearing this, the Major Chandrakanth Singh, Paunchy, was like, sir, both my superiors are like totally out, and we can't like radio them. They're out of radio contact. I can't supersede them. Chain of command is a serious thing in the Indian Army, and it was like he was kind of afraid. But Ben told him, look, I'll take care of it. Tell someone, my operations commander, to contact them over his radio. He has a better radio with great range. And you just get your guys to Brahmanpuria. I'll meet you on the bridge. Okay, so get to it. So now the 4th Guard, who had been fighting constantly since the start of the war, had to go to Brahmanpuria. Now at this time, you have to consider that these guys were basically... surviving on shakkarparas. Now shakkarparas are just these sugar-coated fried flour sweets. Okay, we eat them a lot. And the tea, that was only, we didn't have MREs, and these guys were told to go to Brahmanpuria. One thing that the occupation of Arnd had done, it has severed the connection between Brahmanpuria, which was the headquarters for the Pakistani 14th Division and their 27th Infantry Brigade, and Comilla, where the 39th Pakistani Division resided. So, well, so that was it. Joining the 4th Guards were the tanks of CO Major Shamsher Mehta of the Independent Squadron of PT-76. Anyway, so now it was about like 20 kilometers or 15 kilometers to basically Brahmanpuria, and everyone had to have something to go on. So it was like dibs. Someone mounted the PT-76, and look, everybody called dibs on that. So some guys were left with like going on foot, and some guys like had auto rickshaws, some took bicycles, some took motorcycles, and that was the case. Now the Lieutenant Colonel Himmat Singh and Brigadier Mishra, the brigade commander, and the division commander, Major General B.F. Gonzalez, met on the bridge along with Paunchy. Brigadier Tully commanded the 73rd Brigade of the 57th Mountain Division, and he was quite cross with him. He could have taken Brahmanpuria and even captured all the soldiers there, but because of his slow advance and apprehension, he was not able to. So anyway, the 4th Guards were ordered to get into Brahmanpuria, but it's, well, it's a hard thing, because you see, these troops, the 4 Guards, or the 18 Rajput and 10 Bihar, and the engineering regiment, which was lagging behind due to their heavy equipment, well, these are not Marines, you see, these are infantry, basically. And these were being sent on a mission where a geography like Bangladesh, where there are rivers, nalas, and streams all around, and the soil is quite soft and wet. So now it was easier said than done. So anyway, the battalion started improvising. and all the other battalions involved in the operation. They had ropes, logs. They board some barges and some boats from the Mukti Bahini bros, or the Bangladeshi bros at that time, and they started crossing the river. Now the PT-76, you would ask, were never not used by the troops because they were amphibious only on their own weight. They can't carry extra weight. So then, well, the PT-76 somehow crossed the river, and so did the 4 guards, and somehow the 18 Rajput and the 10 Bihar. And now they get into the town. Now these guys were expecting that this would be Fallujah, same like the Marines in Fallujah, but it wasn't. When Major General B.F. Gonzalez flew over the town, he realized the Pakistani 14th Division and the 27th Brigade had actually, well, fallen back to Ashuganj. Now these guys thought that if they fall back to Ashuganj, there would be better probability they could defend the Meghna crossing. So now, but at this moment too, they searched everything, and a lot of unsavory stuff was found in the Brahmanpuria town, the headquarters of 14th Division 27th Brigade of Pakistan. I won't go into that because this is a video totally on the military aspect of the war, but maybe in some other videos. Anyway, so now the General Sagat Singh basically said, okay, get your boys to Ashuganj, and captured Ashuganj. Now at this point, the 4 guards was quite tired. They were basically unstoppable, and but they were tired. So, but because of the slow advance of the 73rd Brigade under Brigadier Tooley, they had to take the mantle, and they, well, it was get on up and get going. That's the infantry life. So, the Major Shamsher Mehta's tanks were the first ones to get mounted by infantry, and they were on their way. Rest of them took auto rickshaws, bicycles, motorcycles, whatever they had their hands on. Major Tuffy Marwa actually stole a fire truck, a freaking fire truck. This guy was a maniac. Like, he literally took their fire truck and wore that shiny tin hat and was like waving the siren all around. This is the middle of a war. I know what he was doing. He was doing it for fun, or he had just, like, he was not afraid to die, whatever. He could have been struck by artillery or mortar. He wasn't afraid. So anyway, it was the advance to Ashuganj. And when they reached Ashuganj, it was, well, quite fortified, because there were about 6,000 soldiers of the Pakistani army, and they had artillery and mortar support. So for the time being, they were, well, stuck on the outside, so they occupied a masjid. When the 4 guards and their officers saw, and the division commanders saw how far the western bank of the Meghna was. Meghna is a really vast river, and they were so relieved that they don't have to cross that river. So anyway, so at that, artillery shelling was incessant from the Pakistanis, and but in the morning, the brigade commander, the Brigadier Mishra, went to meet Major General B.F. Gonzalez back to Brahmanpuria, and at 9 a.m. The 4 Guards Battalion was told to come back to Brahmanpuria. Now something was up. Paunchy, in his own words, said that, okay, this is weird, why are they calling me back? Now, at this point, they advised Major General B.F. Gonzalez that we are under attack and we are engaged with the enemy. So he said, don't worry about it, the 18 Rajput and the 10 Bihar will take over in Ashuganj, and you come back to Brahmanpuria. And lo and behold, when they reached Brahmanpuria, in the stadium, there were, well, 14 Mi-4 helicopters under Group Captain Singh, and these helicopters, Paunchy perfectly understood what was happening. They were to cross the Meghna in helicopters, 14 Mi-4s, with a range of about 200 to 250 kilometers on a full tank, and about 14 to 15 troops. Now I'm adjusting for the excess weight here for the Mi-4s. Now anyway, when this happened, the Paunchy himself said that Lieutenant General Sagat Singh believed in the capabilities of his men so much that he would have ordered them to swim across the Meghna if there wasn't for the Air Force's helicopters. The only thing that his belief in his soldiers triumphed over was his own belief in himself and his vision in his strategy. So now, well, fortunately, the guards had experience with the Mi-4s. Now, the Mi-4s had their rear hatches removed, so it was better for mounting and dismounting and boarding and disporting. Helicopters were to go to a place called Raipur. Now this was the location which was made so that they could completely circumvent the Pakistani 14th Division and 27th Brigade, which was in the Bharat Bazaar, which was a town just opposite of Ashuganj. So anyway, the soldiers started mounting and the first helicopter started takeoff. They had a company and I think a section of the East Bengal Regiment, the Mukti Bahini, and they were off to Raipur. The flight took 15 or 20 minutes and they landed. Now at the helipad, flying officer Diljit Singh Shaheed was marking the place with not from paint or from some kind of powder. He was mounting it from wet wheat flour because the powder or the paint would just blow away or seep into the soil. But the wet wheat flour was actually durable. By the way, until the starting of the operation, the soil had become so drenched and so bad that the later landings were no landings at all. They had to hover 6 feet up in the air and just meters from each other, and such was the operation. So anyway, the whole battalion was crossed. Now at this point, the Pakistanis were bamboozled again. The 19th Punjab and 2 regiments of the Bangladeshi army, the Mukti Bahini, were engaged with the Bharat Bazaar 19th Division, 14th Division and the 27th Brigade. They were responsible for containing that regiment until the 17th. Now remember that it's just about 3 battalions, which is about 2,000, maybe 1,500 people, and they were responsible for containing a force of about 6,000. So you tell me, how good were they? Anyway, the battalion of guards were now to advance to Dhaka. Now something very interesting happened. The one of the companies, Paunchy's company and another company, was commanded by, well, I think a lieutenant. I think he was called Surinder, and he was a Sikh. Now, unfortunately, he was not so good with maps because he was a new guy. He was just in the army, had just come up, and the major was injured, so he had to take up the mantle. And what happened was, instead of going towards Narsingiri with the designate and the railway stations where a paramilitary section or company was defending it, he went back to Bharat Bazaar. Now, after coming back, he had quite a mouthful from the division commander and the battalion commander and the brigade commander and Paunchy, but it had an unintended effect. The Pakistanis thought that they're coming back to Bharat Bazaar and they fortified their position, but that was not our intention. So what happened was, Paunchy, in his approach to the railway station, was basically the Bangladeshis rejoiced when they saw the troops, and they were like, "Joy Bangla, Joy Indra," and they just took him up in the air, and they were like cheering for them. So this had an unintended effect. The company that was protecting the railway station was so afraid that they just abandoned it. Anyway, now the matter was to clear Narsingiri, and to their surprise, there was no one there. Again, they were expecting a Fallujah. No, the Narsingiri sector was cleared quite relatively easily. So then about all the rest of the brigade, about 6,000 people's worth, and maybe more, was taken over to Narsingiri, which is further from Raipur, and the whole 6,000 people were taken with helicopters over the I know, like a day or so, the whole thing, like artillery, mortar, engineering regiments with their equipment, the whole thing, they were transported to like 45 kilometers away. Now, yeah, in itself, the Meghna is quite wide, but the first landing was 25 kilometers away, the second landing was 45, 50 kilometers away, and the whole thing was transported. Now, this is the thing. When this operation took place, the army didn't know about it, nor did the Air Force, nor did the Eastern Command. The operations commander of the Eastern Command, J.S. Arora, actually flew to the corps headquarters of the 4 Corps, and they literally got into a fight with Lieutenant General Sagat Singh, telling him to fall back. Field Marshal Manekshaw, the legendary Manekshaw, actually told Sagat Singh to pull back to the eastern bank of the Meghna, but Lieutenant General Sagat Singh said, "No, I'm not doing that. This is what we do. The enemy is on the run. They're without support. Let's hit them on the jugular." And that's what happened. When the whole brigade was transported to Narsingiri and everyone came together, there was, and I think the Adamji jute mills was occupied near Dhaka, the artillery of this brigade started shelling Dhaka. And that was it. The whole operation took about 2 days. The crossing was made on the 9th, and I think about 10 or 11th or the 12th, the sources differ on when it was actually the whole 6,000, I think 8,000. There were also supporting units. I think 10 or 11, maybe 10, 11 December 1971, and they all were transported to the place. And basically now Dhaka was surrounded by all sides, were surrounded by the Indians. Okay. So our military, basically, Lieutenant General Sagat Singh had done what no one had intended to do. He had fought, he had disobeyed orders, he had risked being court-martialed. But the risk was to see his vision through. He believed in his men, especially the 4 guards, and he believed that they could do anything, and they did. They performed miraculously. And so now the Pakistani 14th Division and the 27th Brigade was contained in Parab Bazar. They had no chance of moving. They were out of ammunition, and the 19th Punjab and the 2 East Bengal regiments of the Bangladeshi army had basically not allowed them to move or maneuver. Anyway, so now this was the situation. At this point, the Pakistanis started calling the West and the UN, and it was basically the end of the war. It was quite literally the last battle, and one of the most successful Heli-borne operations the Indian Army and the Air Force has ever performed. And this guy, Lieutenant General Sagat Singh, and all the officers, Brigadier Mishra, Lieutenant Colonel Himmat Singh, Major Chandrakanth Singh, Major Kharbanda, Major Tafi Marwa, and everybody in this operation, they were just exceptional soldiers. Only about 100 casualties on both sides happened. This was miraculous. To win a war in this way is a feat of absolute genius. So how did this not be a priority of the command? That is always asked the question. I wonder myself, why did it happen? Like, why didn't the command, they thought about capturing Dhaka? Now, it could be that, and it was a great move, because even our people didn't know about this operation. How the hell would the Pakistanis know about it? When Brigadier of the 27th Infantry Brigade was captured, he told the interrogating officer, I think he was from the artillery, that like, we were surprised by the whole thing. We were surprised by the circumventing or outflanking of Akhoda. We were surprised by the occupation of Arandha. We were surprised by the crossing into Brahmanpuria. We were surprised by this whole Heli-borne operations, because you see, Unlike the Pakistanis, who always thought that, oh, if the Western forces can do this, we probably will be able to do this 10 years later. But our guys were different. They thought, okay, Western forces can do this, we can do it better, even with less resources. And as I've told you, this was not a mechanized brigade or a mechanized division. It was an infantry division with some PT-76 tanks who had come up. Major Shamsher Mehta's tanks, the PT-76, and they performed this task. That was how the most successful Heli-borne operation in the 1971 war, and maybe in the history of Indian Army, was performed. And this kind of begs you to ask a question. What is the reason we still don't really have gone towards the integration of more convincing integration of the Army and the Air Force? Or even this whole thing. There were rivers, there were nalas, there were swamps, there were lagoons. The whole thing is like, even in dry season, Bangladesh is really wet. And we still don't have a Marine Corps. Like, wow, that's just amazing. So, yeah, so I think what has happened is, even though our army was quite good at that particular time, I think the concepts and the operational lessons that we learned in the war were never evolved. As I said, someone like Brigadier Tully, who was, well, his performance in the war was not very good. He literally took medical leave when the surrender was to happen the next day. Like, literally, what kind of soldier would miss one of the biggest days of his life? Like that photo when you have everyone standing there and the Pakistanis general signing the surrender order. I mean, that's an iconic photograph. Who would miss that? But he did. And later in his life, he became a lieutenant general. I think he was vice chief of army staff or something. And it's just mind-boggling to me. And I think that our forces have not been able to evolve their tactics. So yeah, so that was, well, that was air mobile for you. That's Heli-borne. Well, that's all the cool things you think about when, you know, those Hueys flying in Vietnam. Stop imagining them. Stop. Imagine Mi-4 helicopters going towards Taga at sunset. And that's literally what happened. And that's the video for you. So again, please go ahead and subscribe. You are liking, commenting, and sharing, but you're not subscribing. So go ahead, subscribe so we can make better videos, guys. Come on. And, well, see you in the next video. And, you know, if you have any ideas about what videos I can make, comment below. And, well, bye-bye and Jai Hind.